Okay, so everybody, I'm Jeremy, and this is my second time hosting in the meetup. Basically, this is my information. I'm a developer with like 10 plus years working experience writing any kind of code from Java to front-end stuff. I'm also running a small consulting company in the States, serving clients in these areas. Currently, we are working on the financial part, building a very cool exchange service, which will be announced early next year. And I also founded these companies, although none of them are quite a success, so I'm still doing consulting work. And this one is my latest personal side projects, and I will come back to this later. So, to the topic, Loopback. Before I begin, I want to ask, how many of you have been using Node.js? Did you answer this question? No? Okay, it's like 10 people. So does any one of you ever heard of Loopback before today? What? You are using that? You already use it?
Heard of it.
Heard of it?
They sponsor the Express page now, don't they?
Yeah. Yes. Okay, this is the way you know.
Yeah.
All right, right. Speaking of the sponsor, the company behind Loopback is called StrongLoop. StrongLoop is the main sponsor behind Node.js and Express and a bunch of Node-related modules these days. Probably you see their name everywhere. Okay, so like 10 people using Node.js, 3 people knows Loopback, and sometimes the only one building anything with Loopback. Okay, so what is Loopback? It's an open source project. Every single line of the project is on GitHub, so you can review it anytime. And it's mainly used for building API service. It's not like for you to build a forum or an e-commerce site. It's not for that. It's fully focused on building APIs. If you need to build APIs real quick, this is like the most efficient solution I've found so far. But on top of that, I will talk about this later. Loopback is actually way beyond building APIs. They come with a lot of goodies. You will know later. Okay, so what is good for? You can build API service. You can build mobile backend or for your hybrid apps, or you can build anything real-time related. It has got those real-time socket built-in. So whenever your models on the server changes, it will notify your client, or vice versa, and a lot of good stuff. So these are the kind of things it's good for. So what's in the box? Like 50% of the code is based on the framework, which helps you to build APIs real quick. But another half of the stuff in the box is DevOps tools. As Greg mentioned, when building an app or when building your products with Node.js, writing the code is like 50% of the job. Another 50% of the job is building, packaging, deploying, monitoring, clustering, and a lot of things related to your production server. You need to make sure that the production server runs well and scales well. Most of the framework out there don't take care of this. They just do the development framework part. So you can write your application real quick, fine. But when the time comes to deploy and to manage a lot of servers, you're gonna be in trouble. Loopback help you to solve this. And also, there's a lot of wisdom packed in. I'm gonna talk about this later. Okay, so let's have a look at the framework. It's like super easy. We know for API, it's like you are expose your resources on the server as a way for your client to access it, right? So you need some way to create those resources. By creating those resources, I'm talking about building those CRUD methods like create, update, remove, things like that. And in Loopback, you write things like this. This is a schema in JSON format. This is a user model. You just write these things with these properties. You got an ID, you got a title, attribute. It just takes me like 2 minutes to write this thing, and with one key, it will turn this JSON schema into a model, and this model will be there will be a corresponding schema generated in the database of what you assigned. Say in this project, I might be using MongoDB, so this schema will be converted into a model Then this model will be processed in MongoDB with all corresponding fields generated for you in 2 minutes for each of your model. Just write this. And if you need to change it, just make the modification here, then press the button. Excuse me?
Lots of questions. Is it like JSON schema compatible?
Yes,
Okay.
it's JSON.
No, but there is a specification called JSON schema.
Oh, no.
Okay.
It's just using the JSON format.
How does it handle migrations? If you change it and it's already like mirrored in the database, how does it know how to change the database?
The framework provides a command called migrate.
Okay.
So it migrates for you.
Okay. How do you do if you have like a JSON, an object which is different from like the user sends something and gets something back, like some different, like get and post have different schema?
Oh, do we have the needs for that?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Well, I don't.
Okay.
Joke aside, I got your question, but I don't know. I never handled it.
Okay.
In my use case, I just use same schema for post and get.
Okay.
Any other questions? Right. So writing this simple schema, then it will turn into a model, and for every model it is generated for you. You need to implement your business logic somehow, right? It takes a combination of Rails that asks you to write a lot of before hook or after hook. So if you have got a method called users/get, user can invoke the API and get users. But normally we need to say, hey, who are you and what kind of right do you have, and which of the user object you have the right to access. We need to do a lot of business logic, a lot of sensory on the server side. Those before and after hooks are there for you to do this kind of jobs. And also, for every model, there comes with like 12 methods for CRUD, like create user, update all user, or remove one user, remove all user, things like that. If those 12 methods is not good enough for you, you can add your own remote method in this class, and it will automatically become a new endpoint. Simple like that. And also, Loopback comes with the ORM built-in. It was forked from Juggling DB. Has anybody used this before? I know a lot of people are using SQLize, right? No? You don't actually use any ORM. You just write SQL, and you love SQL, right? The highest efficiency. All right, if you are the ORM kind of guy, Juggling DB is something worth looking into. Of all the ORMs I've been using, this one has got the most friendly API, and it performs pretty well. Probably not the best, but it performs pretty well. At least it's good enough for me. So Loopback forked this library, and this becomes their own ORM. The highlight is here. You don't see a lot of ORM that support Oracle, right? What's the last time you see an ORM that say it supports Oracle or Microsoft SQL? You don't see them a lot often, right? Loopback provides support for this because they are labeled as enterprise level API service, so they cannot support it. But for me, I just use MongoDB and sometimes Postgres. Okay. Anyway, if you are using ORM, the real backend doesn't really matter, right? It's abstracted. So with this ORM built-in, also it handles relationship really well. You can say you can set up has many, belongs to many, has many, belongs to many. Any kind of relationship is supported.
How do you handle transaction if your database doesn't do transactions?
Good question. Actually, no, I don't see this transaction supported. Good question. I will look it up. Okay. Probably database is supported, but in the ORM level, it is not supported.
But
yeah.
Transaction in Oracle, like you don't have transaction in Mongo at all, so
yeah.
probably.
Oh, for MongoDB, if you really need to touch the raw MongoDB functionalities, it's simple. It's just add one line. You have access to the raw MongoDB connections.
Okay.
So say in our case, we need to do a lot of full text search, which is of course not supported by this ORM. We can just use those commands from MongoDB. So I guess if I need transaction, I will do the same thing here. Okay. And also it supports cloud storage. So next time we will need to upload some file and save that in S3 or in one of those OpenStack stuff out there. You can just add a data source in the JSON file. Then you can use the same CRUD method to handle your files. You don't need to write any S3 or AWS or OpenStack or Azure APIs. No, you just use upload the file, save file, delete the file, and everything behind will be handled for you. And building API Explorer. If you have been building APIs, you know how tricky and how important it is to test your API constantly. You need to fill in different parameters and make sure that it returns the result you are expecting, right? A lot of people are using a tool called a web-based tool, Postman, right? You use Postman to test your API. But in Loopback, it has got something called API Explorer. This is a nice graphic user interface here. Those 12 methods I just mentioned are all here. So you click on each one of this line, it will expand it, and there's fields for you to fill in those parameters, and with one click, you can see your API in work, or it doesn't work. This is a very nice API Explorer. Whenever you make changes to your files, you can test it here on the fly. This is all built in. You don't do anything. You just write that schema in 2 minutes.
Is it based on Swagger?
Yes. Good eyes. Okay. And also authentication. This is no-brainer. For every API, we need good authentications. But it is better. Aside from having very serious HCL access control list rules here, it also has some built-in niceties, like it provides register, login, logout, forgot password, reset. All these methods are there, ready for you to use. So last time I need to build a user function. I need to build a page to let the user register a new account, send in notification, verification email, and let them log in, and let them reset their password. It takes me like 10 minutes. And 5 minutes of those were spent on Bootstrap because I can't get the style right. And for the other 5 minutes were spent in invoking those methods. It's already there. You just need to hook it up with your view. It's always the view part that spend a lot of time. So authentication is all taken care of for you. And this is the more serious ones. Once the user is authenticated and is getting into your system, the second question the second most thing we want to do is we need to control who has right to access what, right? In a discussion application, you don't want a user deleted post that not belongs to him. Or in a CRM application, you don't want a sales John access clients of Mary. If you have this kind of business policies. So Loopback comes in with role-based access control. It even has those dynamic role definition. So you can set up very complex business rules to implement your business logic using this system. It's all built in. You just set up some rules in the schema I just showed you, and it just works. And OAuth too. These days, who don't need OAuth, right? If your application needs to allow user to log in or register with any of those accounts from Facebook, Google, or Twitter, or GitHub, normally you will use Passport, and it's already integrated in Loopback. You just invoke those APIs, and you have a support for 100 plus providers. So OAuth support built in. And see, this is the single most thing I love about Loopback. Quick tool. Does any one of you ever build an application that need to work on mobile devices, working offline, and when you are online, you send those data back to the server? Any one of you ever built this kind of so-called offline ready apps? One there? Okay. no surprise, it's always you building those weird and hardcore applications. Okay. All right, so these days, everybody uses smartphone, right? And you build applications. And smartphones are very prone to unstable network connections. Oftentimes, you need to make sure your apps keeps working while it's offline. Say you are on a plane from Taipei to New York. For the next 18 hours, you will not have internet access. Does your app still works? Probably you can implement something, some local storage and store those data so your app works. This is the easy part. How do you make sure when you landed in New York and you got internet connection, you can correctly sync those data back to the server? And let's bring it a bit notch higher. If during that 18-hour flight, your coworkers make changes to those data, say you both are working on a business plan stored on the server, other people have made modifications to the data, and you made a modification on the plan, and now 18 hours later you are in New York, you want to sync it back. How are you gonna do this? There's conflicts. There's lots of conflicts. How are you gonna handle this? It's hard, right? This question has been haunting me for like past 10 years. I've been looking for various kind of solutions. I tried a lot of solutions, trust me, from Java to .NET to anything possibly on the table. Nothing really works well. Until I see this one. Loopback handles this for you. In the background, you don't need anything. You just say sync, result. That's it. 2 APIs there. Everything is handled for you. Even when there's conflict, it will emit an event saying, hey, there's a merge, there's a conflict. You need to do some kind of merge. So it will provide 2 versions of the data, the one on the server and the one on your laptop in New York. So you can present a nice 3-way merging UI for the user. Say, hey, this is your version. This is the one on the server. How do you want to merge these 2? So there's a third view here. So you can do the merge and say, hey, this is the final definitive version, and click save. Then it's saved. There's a lot of algorithms, calculations happen in the back end, but you don't need to know that. It's all taken care of. You just need to know those 2 methods I just mentioned and this event, and build a nice UI for the user to do the merge. These things. Oh, by the way, I help implement this real-time syncing mechanism for them because I need this in our products. No, originally, their syncing mechanism is not real-time, which means you somehow need to use set timeout or set interval to trigger the sync like every 5 seconds. But I help implement I help them build this with Saki.io, so they have a web Saki connection. So this thinking is now real time. Okay. This is something you need to pay special attention to because in this mobile world, if you need any of those syncing offline ready capabilities I just mentioned, this is the one to go. And this is the boring part. It has it's their new product. This app help you to generate the models from DB schema and vice versa. So if you have already got a database and you want to generate a model, you can read those schema from the database and generate it. I never use these things. I just write this JSON file. This is a look of it. Not interested. And it also supports push notification because the assumption is you are building applications on Android and iOS, so you probably need push notification. You know these nice blue bubbles on your phone. It's all built in. You just fill in your license, your API keys from Apple and from Google. Then send notification. See, it's more like that. Okay. And website, I just mentioned that I helped implement this, but it's not out there yet. And they also have a native SDK for iOS, Android, and Angular. For the first 2 parts, it makes sense. For iOS, Android, you need SDK to invoke their APIs, right? The next part, there's a part sounds reasonable for me because it's an API. Why I need an SDK for an API? How do you figure? Why you need an SDK for an API? API is over HTTP. I can always just invoke those APIs. But anyway, they have got SDK for those things. If you are building native iOS and Android apps, you can use those. And Greg mentioned Express. Loopback is built on top of Express. So if you already know Express, good for you. You can reuse your skills here because the whole Loopback thing is kind of 100 middlewares hooked together. So if you know Express, you know how to use middleware, you will feel like at home immediately when you see the syntax. So for me, for our team, we love Loopback so much because we love their client, we love their schema, and they're automatically translating the schema to the model. We love it so much. We want to use it everywhere. So even when we are building websites, we still use Loopback because after all, it's Express. If you can build a website with Express, you can continue using Loopback. Oh, by the way, you see this one? React.js. Some of you probably know I'm a big fan of React.js. And if you don't know this thing, highly suggest you should pay attention to this. This is like the next big thing on the block. Okay, this is a nice front-end framework from Facebook. It helps you to build highly efficient front-end apps. And as you know, when building a website, you still need some template thing to build your view, right? Normally, we will use EJS, Jet, or Handlebar on the server. But I love React so much. We integrated this. We integrated React.js as a templating system on the server. So now we can write React on the server. Oh, okay. So to this page, this is about the framework part. It helps you to write your application. But remember, I said this is just like 50% of the scenario. In a real-world scenario, writing the application is half the thing. You still need to handle a lot of the boring jobs, possible boring jobs. You need to debug your application. You need to build and package your application. You need to deploy to do the proper logging and monitoring your server and cluster your server. Cluster means scale out. Probably one machine is not enough. You need to start another 10 servers. All these things, normally you will have to assemble pieces by pieces. You will need to know which part to use, which tool to use, and you need to study each one of them and try to build your own workflow. But in Loopback, each one of these is ready for you. They got tools, they got menus, they got examples, they got training courses. Everything is ready, just use it. Okay, have a look at this. So debugging. If you are writing Node.js application, you must know Node inspector, right? It looks like this. Sounds familiar? This is Chrome DevTools. You can use this tool to debug your Node.js application. It has got this nice variable here, code stake and breakpoints. And you can state breakpoints here. It's just like what you would do in Chrome for your front-end app. You can use this. You just need the Node inspector, or you can just use their tool. It's called SLC debug. SLC stands for strong loop
Command line.
Command line? Whatever. Just run this command. Okay, and you build a package. Once your application were completed, you need some way to send this thing over to your server. Probably is a $5 per month instance on DigitalOcean, or $70 per month instance on AWS. Whatever the server is on the remote end, right? You need a proper way to package your application and send it over to your server. Back in Java period, we just pick this as a WAR file and send it there, right, and deploy. But now nobody does that. In Loopback's world, it has got this SLC project manager library for you. So with one command, it will build your application. package it in a nice format and transfer this thing to your EPS or to your AWS and extract it there and deploy it all in one command. You just need to fill in those SSH keys or your password or the IP address of your remote server. Then with one command, all of these were taken care of for you. And also, because those guys were experts on Node.js, they know how to build and deploy things. Their documentation is like a gym. Even if you use their tools, you can still read how they deploy applications and build your own tools. But why bother? And logging, this is the boring part. There are many ways to log your file. You can log to local file, syslog, or remote log. Or you can go fancy to log into a Splunk. When you are running a $1 million business, you got a large amount of logging data. Splunk is those kind of database to help you do proper storage and search for you. Those support were all built in still one command to do them all. Okay. Clustering. Okay. As some of you may know, in latest version of Node.js, the server itself supports clustering, which means if on your server you got 4 cores, currently nodes will just use 1 core, but with this clustering coming, you can tell Node.js say, hey, I got 4 cores, you can use it. So with 1 line of code, it will just spawn 4 processes and reduce all those cores for you. There's one meaning of clustering, but in this regard, Loopback will help you to spawn multiple servers to do the load balancing for you. It's all built in, it's complicated. I just give you some higher level concept. If you are really interested, have a read of this documentation. It's all taken care of for you.
One question. So it's cluster but on one machine. It's not a cluster of multiple servers.
Both. It will first cluster on one machine. Then, if the other machine cannot hold any more connections, it will start to scale out.
Does it use the cluster module?
No, last time I checked their source, they were just using those kernel APIs from version 0.12.
Okay.
There's a kernel API that in the cluster package for that. It's complicated. If your business is big enough that you need to worry about clustering, congratulations, it's a nice to have a problem. But you just bear in mind when you really need to handle this problem, the solution is already there for you. You don't need to start from scratch. Right? And for monitoring, when in production, you need to monitor the status of your CPU and your memories. There are tools built in, nice GUI tools. Maybe I have, oh no, I don't. I didn't have a screen cap there. So everything is covered for you. So let me do this. Have a look at this. This is like just simple words on this blue background, right? If you ever try to do any of this, you know there's how many analysts, sleepless night, standing before the terminal trying to figure all these things out because your production server is on the line, and if you screw up, your server gonna die on you, and you don't want that to happen, right? Okay. So this is why I cherish this framework and those guys there, because they did really awesome job. Okay. Other benefits. Whenever I'm choosing solutions or picking frameworks, the first thing I ask is, do you have a vendor lock-in? What do I mean by vendor lock-in? One of the reasons I never pick other solutions is because if I choose one piece of their solution, I will have to use all their solutions, and there's no way for me to exit. It's called a vendor lock-in. Well, take Microsoft, for example. There's a very standard example in this case. In Loopback's case, everything is open source. Everything I mentioned before, even including those monitoring tools, clustering tools, is open source. So there's no vendor lock-in. You just Git pull everything to your laptop, and it's there for you forever, even if the company went out of business someday. And also, although I don't like vendor lock-in, I do need somebody to hold my back when the shit hit the fan. You know, in a commercial world, when your product is up there running in a production environment and shit happens, and you do not have those expertise to take care of this, who's gonna call for? Ghostbuster? Nice, okay. But what if Ghostbuster does not exist in real world? You can call those guys. They're gonna fly quite a bearded guys or a bald guy, so-called sys-office to your office and handle this for you. So you know you are covered by some experts as long as you pay them money. But at least you got somebody to pay your money and they're gonna solve your problem, right? It's better than nothing, nobody gonna hold you back. Okay, this is my point of view. Okay, and a wonderful thing about Loopback is they have got a really active response at the communities. You can check out their Google groups and their GitHub issues. In my experience, for every post in the group or issues I open on GitHub, they normally will respond in 6 hours, which makes me wonder, does any of those guys ever sleep in 6 hours? They're gonna reply to your issues on GitHub. They are this active. Oh, so of course there's spacing. Astronomy is still a very young project considering comparing with other applications. So it's still evolving very fast. In this time, whenever you see evolving fast, which means unstable, constantly changing, bugs is inevitable. But they have come a long way, and they are rather stable now. For me, when we get started, it took us like 1 month to get our heads around this whole thing because it's a huge framework. They got this framework to help you build your API. They got this bunch of tools you need to learn to deploy to monitor your stuff. It took us 1 month, but in the end, once we learn and we understand the ins and outs of it, it's actually pretty easy to use. So in the end, we figured out a way to train new guys on board in 1 week to pick up this thing so they can start working for us, like 1 week. So when do you start? Greg mentioned a couple of frameworks, Koa, like blah, 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 blah. Actually, I surveyed many of them because before I settled down on Loopback, I too want to use something that everybody is using or something easier. So I want to choose Express or I want to use, okay, here's my conclusion. For quick and simple tasks, say you just want to build some simple backends, Koa probably will be your best choice for next year. It's on the frontier of this this technology. Just as Greg mentioned, is using generators, which comes from year 6. So if you don't work in a company and you get the freedom to choose your own stack, Core probably will be your best choice. But if you go on this road, you need to know what you are doing because you need to piece together each of those things you need. You need to study and find a router for you. You need to pick a template engine. You need to pick an OI. You need to pick everything that you need to form your stack if you go down this road. And if you want to build enterprise grade, which happen to be my main market, our clients are all in this enterprise grade. We need something stable. We need to build things real quick. And most important of all, we need it to be super robust. We have 0 tolerance of error. Loopback is our weapon of choice. Through their architecture, I know it's well sold out and they have got all ends covered. I did a very solid background check on this company and each of their main developers. And I'm very surprised to find they probably hired the top experienced developers in this field in their company building this framework. Each one of them probably have like 10 or 20 years plus experience building large scale applications or tool sets. So I have a confidence in them. And if you want to build an e-commerce site or forward site, those old school web server-based application, I think Express is still the best choice now. Why? Because a lot of people know this framework, so you will have an easier time hiring people. And also, Express is used in so many places, it's better tested. Okay. And okay, this is my philosophy. Do not reinvent the wheels, especially when they are flaky ones. Which means everybody has the urge to piece together your whole stack. You think you got a better insight than other people. You have a confidence in yourself. You know how to pick your right tools. But in the end, when you spend 3 months doing those things, one day you might wake up to yourself and ask, hey, what am I doing? Why don't I just pick some mature tool set in the beginning instead of wasting time piecing together those pieces? Because in the end, I want to spend my time building application and test the market, not testing the technology, right? At least that's my goal. So don't reinvent the wheels. Oh, side notes, as I said, I learned a lot by reading their code. Their source code is beautifully written. It's like the living model of Node.js. So if you are new in Node.js and you don't know how to write beautiful or correct Node program, read their source code, read their test cases. You will learn a lot. You will know how to test a Node.js application. There's a bunch there to learn. Let alone, if you are new to this build, package, deploy, cluster, monitor things, you know nothing about this, read their manual, read how they build their tools. You can learn a lot. And okay, just stand on the shoulders of giants. This is my philosophy. Whatever tools help me to save time and bring in results faster, I will use that. Okay. Oh, this is the Holy Grail. Well, this is what makes us so happy and what free me from working. I can stand here giving this talk tonight because we finally settled down on our workflow. We now have we think is the best workflow, so we can do our job faster, bring results quicker. So I have time to go out and speak. We picked React and Flux for the front end, as I just mentioned. I'm a huge fan of React and Flux. I can't say how revolutionary these things brings to the front end development. On the back end, we use Node.js and Loopback for pretty much everything, for APIs, for real-time communications, for normal web servers. In short, we are practicing isomorphic JavaScript. Now, each one of us do full-stack development in JavaScript. So every one of my team can write back-end code and front-end code. They go full circles. So there's no waiting time. There's no time waste on communications or waiting for people, back-end guys to fix your bugs or vice versa. In short, by using isomorphic approach, we achieve highly efficiency. We got short time to market, and we got robust quality. Our clients are happy. Our products are faster to market.
What's the average size of this application?
Like hundreds of JavaScripts, hundreds of views, tens of views for our own products.
How many lines of code approximately?
I
Or
didn't
number of
count.
tests?
How many tests? Tests is like 100 of test cases. Next time I run the code coverage, I will get the line numbers, lines of code. Okay. So in short, Holy Grail. We have finally got our Holy Grail settled down on Loopback and React, and we are very happy. One added benefit of having this Holy Grail is it's super easy for us to train new guys on board. In the past, when we were using Angular, it would like take 3 months to train a new guy before he can start contribute to the code base. For now, it's like 2 weeks to teach this new guy everything as long as he already knows JavaScript. This is a super win for us. Now we don't have a recruit problem because it's easy. Blah, 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 blah. Ensure you are fully covered. Trust me, I probably have way more experience in this field because I've been doing this for like 10 years, 15 years. I saw a lot of up and downs. I saw a lot of tools come and go. I don't give this word easy. I don't easily say you are fully covered by something because normally I don't trust them enough to give this statement. So when I say it means something. Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, this is because I've been giving a lot of talks in the meetups lately, and a lot of people come to me and say, "Hey, I will teach you all these things. I've been asking so much." So I set up these websites or side projects giving trainings on this thing. If you are interested, have a look. So, questions? Any questions?
Is it something like a Firebase open source?
Is like Firebase as in open source?
Yeah.
It's all open source.
Yeah, it works like the Firebase.
Well, actually, you can use Loopback to build your own Firebase or your own material. But do you mean, has anybody used Loopback to build something like Firebase? Yeah. No, not yet. But actually, it's super easy to build one. It's just you need to figure out the business model first, because they are now under Google's wings.
How does it handle broadcast inter-server messages? Because if you're doing clustering, if you need to share data between two different servers,
yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah, data mesh is an upcoming feature in the clustering part.
Oh, okay.
Okay. For now, we are actually not using their clustering service. We are doing that on our own using Dockers and a lot of some related tools to do the clustering ourselves. And we also have set up our own reverse proxy to chain all these things up. So yes, their clustering probably is not ready for prime time for scale out on multiple servers.
With their publishing system, how would that work with having, say, Nginx in front? You said with one command it sets up everything. So does it set up Nginx as well? Or?
Nginx. Oh, this is the reason why I asked, because in their approach, they use Node.js as the web server. And they have got a process manager running on their server. So whenever you do a deploy, it will shut down one process at a time and start new process. The whole thing is in Node.js. This is why I asked why you use Nginx as a web server.
Is there any kind service integration with S3, for example?
Uh-huh.
Is there any other integration with other AWS services, like the load balancer, for example, or the Route 363?
None that I ever seen. No, I didn't see. Questions? All right. So thank you.